Okay, so a little while ago I put a video up about hands clean. That's a doctrine. I just want to show you how much work it takes, and also, just let me turn off this light, it's going to bother me. Just turn this off. There's my flag. Hello, flag. Right, that's better. Light can come from the back and the side. It's better. Alright, so sorry about that. Take my glasses off. Right, so this is my one folder for one case, one hearing, one case. It went through more than one hearing because it had to go through judicial registrar initial, and then a judicial registrar to make a decision, and then a magistrate on a review that he declined after saying there was natural justice involved. So, which leaves, according to Mark Leeming, his book, let me find that book, I don't want to misquote anything, this book here, according to Mark Leeming in this book here, that's my favourite author. So according to Mark Leeming, that left a gap open for this case to be discussed in another court. Now, I'm not, it's not in process right now, but it will be. So I'm in a gap where I can talk about it, but I'm not going to give you my content. I'm just going to show you that this is the amount of information I had for one thing. It's a lot of information. Right, so having clean hands is really critical, and I'm going to show you, if I can find it in here, I'll show you the article and the reason I say that. So if you don't walk in with clean hands, you don't know what you're doing, you don't put in enough information and background knowledge, you're going to set other people up to do the work, and it's double work. And it really, nothing irritates me more than doing work when my case is really very simple. So anyway, I'm going to show you about this clean hands, of why I said all this. So there's my notes. I'm not going to show you them. Here's something you need to know. This article exists. The state is the fiduciary of the people. The state is responsible. So when you go and ask for something, if you ask for assistance and all of this, they have to help you. They have a fiduciary duty to do so. So this is found in, try and get that to focus, 2016 PL, July 2015. It's a Thomson and Reuters. You can find it, so at page 440, and that's the article name. Right, so this one, I talked about this in my case, that councils tend to assist certain groups and leave out certain other groups. And I can show you that in this information where he talks about anti-white. Right? So this is the amount of, you need this information if you're going to, you need to know, right? Another one. Derogatory labels that directly or indirectly inflict a harm on white well-being. These are background things. Anti-whiteism, thoughts, actions and policies hostile to Western kind. Are we not in a Western country? Aren't all policies that are against us anti-whiteism? Right, I'll mention this again, hopefully, if I remember in a minute. Anti-whiteism throughout society, and there's a few chapters on media and government. This is a really good book. I suggest you get it. Let me show you the title again. Go Free. You can get that on Amazon or No White Guilt website. Right? That's Kuna, Jason Kuna. And he goes on YouTube as No White Guilt, NWG, something like that. Right, so and just a few pages. So this is going to be a bit longer because there's quite a few things. I want to really rush past you. These are not court materials right now, but they have been in the courts. The courts know they exist, and the courts have struck out a case in relation to this stuff. Anti-whiteism in academia. How many times have you seen on an education department or any other institution like a university or school How many times have you seen them say, we acknowledge XYZ? How many times have you seen the word diversity? How many times have you seen the word inclusion? These are covered in this book. That's a chapter. Right, schools throughout our civilization, our Western civilization, are discriminating against us. Anti-whiteism in government. You know those welcomes to country? Yeah, they're covered. Okay, you need to read on the topics. This is a thing. Anti-whiteism in private industry and associations. Are they forcing our Western food to be served up by non-whites? Isn't that anti-whiteism? Oh, and you can look at the Criminal Code Act about apartheid and genocide in the UN treaties as well while you're there. Right, anti-whiteism in family, yeah, we know that. All right, they like to mix us out of existence, we already know. All right, so can't show you that part because they're all parts of my case that are strictly private. Just let me get through let me just go past the main court documents. This is my favourite book, one of my favourite books that's not by Mark Leeming, Peter W. Young, 1986, and it's he's a barrister, or was, I'm not sure, Civil Litigation, a practice guide for advocates, and I need all this background information. What aims do you want to achieve? Who are you attempting to persuade? And are you being fair? And then it describes all of that. That's a good chapter there that I used. I presented these exactly as they are to the courts, all three. Natural justice, information about natural justice you need to know. There's also the International Treaty for Natural Justice. Go and have a look at that online. It's a very serious matter. We need to make sure that we know what we're doing here. This is one about, I don't know where the resource came from, but it's from Common Law Roots is the area, and there's quite a bit on that. So that's to do with linking it to our blessing in Almighty God. Here's some more scriptural references. Right? Now, let's see if I can find it. Here's the Commonwealth. Let's see. That at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from the Commonwealth of Australia, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. Now, therefore, ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God. This is chapter 2 of Ephesians. We have this information before us in the King James. Why are people not using it? Right, so let's go through. So that's one. I'll take you through these. Like I said, it's going to be a bit long because there's a lot to show you, because I don't think people know this stuff. This is Genesis chapter 3. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. That is to do with women being in workplaces like courtrooms and policemen. And I've argued that in the court, and they said they put in a lot of religious stuff. Yes, that's right, because you're not keeping to the law. 1 Corinthians 11. Now, I don't have to be righteous. Because I'm a female, I'm allowed to say this stuff. So just be careful what you say. You don't want to offend people. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoureth her head. For that is even all one is she, if she was shaven. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading that one. But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoureth her head, for this is even all one is as if she were shaven. So when you enter the temple, women, you need to do something about being humble. what I do is I wear a bandana when I go into the court. Well, I have worn a hat before, but they don't like the hat as much. But a bandana, yes. That's perfectionism in me. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. But I think if you're going to uphold, you have to have clean hands. If you're going to uphold the law, you have to remember there are aspects of the law that they may know about that you're not doing. Here's the thing about trespass. There's quite a few. You can take those down. Pause and take some of those down. Trespass offerings. Forgiving men of their trespasses. If any man trespass against their neighbour. Right, so you've got to forgive not everyone his brother that trespasses. So if you forgive, if you don't forgive, so not imputing their trespasses unto them. So sometimes it's not their fault. And having forgiven you, you have to think about that. Sometimes you get forgiven very, very quickly. There's more about offence. It's hard to win someone once you've offended against them directly. That's for sure. There's a few more. You can find these on the Latter-day Saints website. This is just from their, I think it's from the topical guide. Let me look. This is the reference. So you can study the scriptures down there. churchofjesuschrist.org, study scriptures. TG means topical guide. You should participate in churches rather than shun them. Sacrifice. There's a whole heap of things about sacrifice. To obey is better than sacrifice. So to obey is better than to give them anything. So you can offer sacrifice to the righteous. You can give your money to the righteous. You can give them in righteousness. So you can hand money to others, or things to others. That's donations and gifts and so on. To obey is better than sacrifice. So sometimes it's better just not to get involved. Yeah? That's what Stephen on Locusts and Honey talks about sometimes. You can look that one up easily. Law of the sacrifice of peace offerings. Right, so sometimes if you went and the police said, well, you parked in my spot. Oh, okay, sorry. I'll just pay it, no problem. Yeah, peace offering. They are peace keepers, peace offering. He that sacrificeth unto any god, save unto the Lord. You need to know who you serve, basically. Okay? So don't give money unnecessarily to anything unless it's, wholesome and basically righteous. Yeah. And you have to know they've got extra scriptures, but I won't go into those. Right, so this is about sacrifices, and it's from, instead of the TG, it's got BD. That's a Bible dictionary. Right, so I looked it up in two parts. The fundamental idea of the sin and trespass offerings was atonement or expiation. You need to look up these types of things, right? They implied that there was a sin or some uncleanness akin to sin that needed atoning for before fellowship with Jehovah could be obtained. We'll say Yahweh or Yah or our Father art in heaven. Sorry, I just had to move because my knees are hurting on the ground, on the floor. So atonement could be made for unconscious, unintentional sins, non-capital crimes, and after punishment has been endured. Crimes that a man voluntarily confessed or for which he made compensation. So sometimes you just make compensation and it's all good. But a lot of times they don't want to make compensation, so it makes it difficult. So they can do trespass or guilt offerings. This is the thing. You don't understand where the foundations of all this stuff comes from. And the courts act in this manner. The peacekeepers, the police, will say, you did this, that's a crime. The court will go by this if you bring it up. Because they are in honour. They swear to uphold God's law. Here's something else. Peace offerings, same part of the same writing. So peace offerings, as the name indicates, presuppose that the sacrificer was at peace with God. Whatever you might call that. Sacrificial meals, etc. Feast symbol. So you can pause these and look through. I'm not going to... These are not to my... Well, they are to some degree copyright, but it's nowhere near complete. There's heaps and heaps and heaps of stuff about this. So this one is back to the topical guide, right? Whoso mocketh the poor reproaches his maker, and I've made claim that police and councils mock the maker. They mock the poor because I asked for assistance and was then fined for their own policies. But I'll go through a little bit of this, but I'm not going to give you the evidence and all of that because that's court business. He saw that he was mocked of the wise men. So I'm approaching people and saying, you're mocking me. Okay? Heard of, some mocked about the resurrection. You can be resurrected in this life. Form 206 comes to mind here. Be not deceived, and also repentance and repayment and compensation. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. So we know what you're doing. We know what's going on. We asked for help. You didn't assist, but then you decided you wanted some money out of us. That's not going to happen. We will not be mocked. Yeah? So these are... It's funny, I gave them this with the exact where the lines are, so yeah. Sorry about the lighting, that other one was reflecting. Persecution, you get the picture. You can look these up. I'm not going to keep going through it. But there's a whole heap of stuff, and when the judicial registrar said that she gave a whole heap of religious stuff, reconciliation, reconcile. So you need to read a ton of reading to know what you're doing. Transgression. What's that, a Bible dictionary? No, topical guide. Oh, there you go. So it just makes a list of all the places you can find these. You can do this on the website of that website, and you can also do this on the King James Bible website. But it's harder because this is laid out in the church. Yeah, interesting. All right, so here's another quote from Romans. So being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God hath set forth to a propitiation through faith in his blood, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past through the forbearance of God, to declare, I say, at this time his righteousness, that he might be just and the justifier of him which believeth in Jesus. Where is boasting then? It is excluded, but by what law? Of what works? Nay, but by the law of faith. Therefore we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. Is he the God of the Jews only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? Yes, of the Gentiles also. Gentiles is Greeks. They're all the same Western people. They're not separate. Seeing it is one God which shall justify the circumcision by faith and uncircumcision through faith. Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. So I've written, we establish the law. So we establish the law as we delve into it and get interested. No, nothing up there. So then I'll go to the next. I can't give you everything. There's about Samaritans. If you have not read Samaritans, pause this and read it. Okay? You need to know where you are in the stories. You are in a mixed race, mixed beliefs, mixed character situation. Okay, this is where we are. The law as we have it does not match the Samaritans that we are in right now. That's why we're having this, difficulty, this white noir, Kuna says. White noir. It's like discomfort because an illness even, physical and psychological, because we are not in our natural proper right law of our Western peoples. It's much more natural. It's much more to do with our our God, our ways, and our ways are not pagan. Just letting you know. Okay, here. Okay, so these 12 Jesus sent forth. This is all about no script for your journey, neither gold or silver. So it's all interesting about how you came to a house. When you come to a house, salute it. You play by their rules, but you also know the law, yeah? So you go through, there's lots and lots of stuff on there. I probably should focus on that. I'm moving up you're on a bed and I'm moving on the bed. That's funny. Right, so I'm going to just pause and read these as I go, if you want. There's a section there, you can read it. And I'm going to turn the page and show you again. Pause that and read it. And pause that and read it. The very hairs of your head are all numbered. You're known. So just going to move there. So there's a lot of fidgeting around. I can't sit still. I thought I was going to be quicker than this, but I did say it would be longer. Anyway, so there's... is that a mistake? Oh no, there you go, Luke 10. There we go, read that one. We thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven, that thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in thy sight. Very good stuff here. Press pause and read them. There's some things that you need to know. So there are good Samaritans. There are good Samaritans. We still have some honour left right at the moment. So this is how I came and approached the court. Unbelievable, isn't it? Most people would be like, no, we don't do it that way. Well, when you get a new opening to the court, to the next court, according to Mark Leeming, excuse me, just move again. When you get that from a justice of the New South Wales Supreme Court in Victoria, what's this one? Acts chapter 1. There shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea, and in Samaria, and unto the uttermost part of the earth. I'm moving because, like I said, my legs hurt. I don't have a lot of space everywhere here. Chapter 8 in Acts. They were scattered abroad and went everywhere preaching the word. And I'll give you this one. You've got to press pause in between because I can't sit around that long. Right? These are real references in the real King James Bible, our law. Thou art in the gall of bitterness and in the bond of iniquity. And then Simon said, Pray ye to the Lord for me, that none of these things which ye have spoken come upon me. And they, when they had testified and preached the word of the Lord, returned to Jerusalem and preached the gospel in many villages of the Samaritans. So they're learning our stuff. And you only got a certain amount of time to get your things done. They always put a limit on everything because in the scriptures, that's the law. 6 years you do all your loaning and work, and on the 7th year you must forgive. Even if the poor person took a loan on the 6th year, on the 7th year you must forgive. I'll have to get that scripture at another time, but banks don't do it. Nobody in society does it except the courts do. I wonder why that might be. And I had a lawyer asking me about that. What's that one? Luke chapter 9. As for what is a man advantaged if he gain the whole world and lose himself or be cast away? Next bit, let's keep going. There came a cloud and overshadowed them, and they feared as they entered into the cloud. But this is my beloved Son, hear him. And it came to pass that on the next day, when they were come down from the hill, much people met him. Should say many people, much people. I wonder why they said much. I suppose it's just a little bit older language, or better language perhaps. Another one. This is Luke 9 as well. Sorry, I'm a bit shaky, but you can pause it in between. Hopefully it's coming out clearly. Alright, let's see what's next. So this is Wigmore's. This is a really, really cool American, I think it's American, John Henry Wigmore. And he talks about so many cool things. See, this is stuff you need to know. Right, I'll try and find it. The 2 axioms of admissibility. That means what can be put in the court. All facts having rational probative value are admissible unless some specific rule forbids. And the second axiom is all facts having rational probative value are admissible unless some specific rule forbids. And then he says a bit later, and this is the type of thing I show the courts, and then I've got to try and get these pinpoint references and write them down like these types of things. You've got to write, I've got to say mention a sentence, and then I've got to write the footnote point, that pinpoint reference to show exactly where it is on this page. Exclusion of probative evidence for undue prejudice. So all this stuff. Some of the stuff that was said in the court case, for example, might have been better excluded. The danger of prejudice be weighed against the probative value of the evidence. Yeah? Exclusion is drastic and less restrictive as such a cautionary instruction to jury may suffice to. This is about jury, but we used to have juries in civil and criminal, but they don't do that now. It's only some criminal, but the summary criminal doesn't. I want to find a quote if I can find it. That says all, somewhere in here it says all, distinction between relevancy and admissibility. No, proof, weight, and admissibility. They're three different things. It says, oh, there it is. The offer of evidence. The procedure in raising and deciding questions of admissibility is a part of the general body of procedure and cannot be fully treated except in that connection. But at some point he says that, it might be the next page, the tenor of the offer. The trial court has the discretion to require that a proponent of evidence make a full and complete offer of evidence. So the evidence must be full and complete, not partly discussed and then left out. That is grounds for an appeal. And that was given to me within the hearing. I'm out of time because I've been sick and sleeping in my sedan for over 6 months because someone did some little naughties in the court, and that court is being used against other people, and I've got a responsibility, haven't I, to go and address that. finality of the offer. Evidence once offered and admitted cannot ordinarily be withdrawn by the offering party, even by allowance of the court without consent of the opponent. At least it cannot be withdrawn merely because the offering party changes its mind about using it. So if you dob yourself in, you're dobbed in. You can't just decline. Or, you know, you can't unclaim something happened when it happened. So here's, I use the Equal Opportunity Act, objectives, etc. So I point out all these things. I point out the objectives. I point out all the points. Yeah. Discrimination, detriment, humiliation or denigration. See, these things, naming someone for doing something when they've asked you for help, that's denigration. Person, physical features, so these are all, you know, things. Services, these are all definitions. I don't want to humiliate groups. Meaning of discrimination. Just make sure there's not any defining features on here. So these are my notes when I put them on there. I can't show you these. Actually, some of the, anyway, there's attributes in there that I asked for assistance with. And there's a section in there that says that they must provide, sorry, that's not, I can't show you some of this section. I'm just going to flip through. And these are the relevant acts of the Samaritans, because these are not our acts, because we are not publicly registered, even though they forced upon us without our knowledge. And so we have to openly say to them, we're not public, we're not in a working position. It's got nothing to do with private and public. There's dummies who go in, and I've got to show you a case that the judicial registrar gave me a case for the court, and I get a feeling, and this has been verified with that reading by Mark Leeming, that they deliberately want it to be brought up into the Supreme Court. They didn't say it. I am saying that. Feels that way. So there's a whole bunch of road safety laws, and there's, let me see the next one. There's another different resource. Motor and traffic law in Victoria. Okay, these are the Samaritan laws. Okay, these are what they're claiming you've done. And you, me, whoever, if you're using a traffic law, you've got to know the traffic law, but you've also have to have clean hands. If you've just gone against the traffic law, there's nothing, the Bible guides you to statute. And I didn't put, I know statute should be in those scriptures somewhere. It is in there. I hope this isn't sideways. Is this sideways? Anyway, I hope not, because there's going to be a long video on the side. Anyway, so here's all the cases that are mentioned in these. I've put those in, right? And I've tried to read them and try to understand. And I can't show you them. Did I put the information? So they argued with me with a case. Oh crap, the case isn't in there. Oh, they gave me a case that mentioned about the name being in a capital letters. I should have checked if it was in here before I started. I know I've got it. I'll put the thing about the capital letters in another case. But this is all, you need to know a whole heap of stuff before you go into the case. And this is about the license that we've got has capital letters, and the case, I'll present it in a different video. The case talks about someone who did get, we'll say, done for a criminal offence of, I don't know if it was without a license or I don't know, something, I can't remember. I have to find the case. I do have it. I just didn't put it in this binder. It was from the Judicial Registrar in a Magistrates Court in Sunshine in Melbourne. And it talks about the licence being in capital letters. So here's a reference that I wanted to use. I showed them this and they didn't talk about it. they totally avoided talking to me about some of these topics. But I didn't just get this dog Latin thing. I didn't stop at a law dictionary online. I continued and I went to the Wikipedia, who said some things, and then I didn't find the outline of this dog Latin in the Blacks, Strouds, etc., mostly because I didn't know enough to look for it and I was quite unwell, and sleeping in my sedan was not helping. But then I also went to my university, and it goes through how words are capitalized, and then I'll show you. So there's that, really, really cool. Yeah, examples of how English runs. Really good. It's a whole set of stuff. Yeah. Use maximal, minimal capitalization styles, la la la. There's referencing, but yeah, there's all the capital used for nationality, ethnic group, and religions. The words Indigenous and Aboriginal are not capitalized when they mean native to. However, you must capitalize when referring to Indigenous peoples. They always point out about Indigenous. They don't point out about English, because you can't uncapitalize English. Yeah, so basically, sorry, I'm advertising LifeWave here. I suppose it doesn't matter if I advertise that. I might do that in a minute. That's a delivery. Anyway, so basically, I argue in the end point with this capitalization stuff that is white erasure of my language, the language of my people. Do you understand? So I go back to that thing, Kuna, Go Free by Kuna, and I say, this is anti-whiteism according to this book, and it's white erasure of my language being an important part of my culture, okay? And my culture being erased like that is genocide under the UN treaties and a section, whatever section, yeah? You need to understand what you are doing. You cannot say private and public. I've been reading about this. Private and public is the difference is if you have a public act, the courts act on it. If you have a private act, they don't act on it. It doesn't go into the court. Do you understand? Court is the public record of goings on and disputes and such like. So private law still uses statutes. Public law still uses statutes. They both still use statutes. It's all the same in some ways. Okay? But when it comes to duties, example, fiduciary duties and contractual duties, these come a little differently. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that there are books that say private law and statutes, and I know there are books that say public law and statutes. You can't just say, oh, I'm in the private, I'm acting in the private. No, you're not. If you've got a license and you are driving on a road and you are, you're still in the King's domain, you're still in the King's highway, yes, but you have contracted into the public. Maybe without knowing, I don't know. You can't not know when you go into the thing and go and get a photo, because if you're not aware, Genesis 20 verse 4 says make no graven images, and you went into the Vic Roads and took a photo of yourself and had them put it on a card for you, and you're stored online, same as I am. I've asked them to relinquish the ungodliness of it, and they won't. They just send it back. I'm not kidding. I've sent my license back and they send it back to me. Go figure that one out. You send it back and they don't want to take it. I'm not joking. Okay? So you need to understand what's going on. All right? I know why they send it back, partly because when I cancelled everything, I've also at the same time made them responsible. They are responsible for us. whether they like it or not. I haven't provided information on some things to them, to the government in general, but they do have a fiduciary obligation. I've showed you an article about that. There's plenty more. And I know this was a really long one. The point that I was going to make, I couldn't make because I didn't have the article in there. I will add it. It was quite interesting that the court handed it to me in particular. I don't know if they wanted to defeat me or if they wanted to push me in the Supreme Court, but my instinct is that it should go to the Supreme Court. And it's right in between gaps right now, but it like, you can't walk in without all this background. That's a huge, I mean, when you think about it, that is one huge, I mean, my binder's broken. That's how much there is in there. You can't just walk into a court and try and say, you know, I was acting in the private. The thought that someone even tried that. But yeah, the court just basically said, well, to add it to it, he's got a license. Like, and he's complaining that language on the license doesn't match his name. But he said it's the same thing as being written normal, like in normal proper noun, which isn't true. But, you know, and I've shown you the argument as to why that's not true. But I'll show you the article separately. I think I'll have to dig it. I'll have to find it. I thought I had it in there still. But this is all my material. I think this is the binder that I used before that was given to me. And I hadn't added it in. I was going to discuss it in the next hearing, but they declined. They said there was an issue with natural justice, but they're going to decline the judicial review. So, which is grounds for the next review. It's just funny. I can see why courts have, like, why they all get such a, we'll call it a judicial sense of humour. They get a very strange sense of humour because, like, they decline you in the court, and if you don't know what they're talking about, which I didn't know until I read that book. Let me just show you his book again. He's the best. He's such a great example. I couldn't even read his books for a long time. He's really, really smart and really, really high value, this guy. Yeah, so, I had no idea until I was reading in here, and a little bit of it said just a sentence. I should find it. Should I show you? I think, have I got it? I don't know if I've got it marked. Sorry, I've got, like, I'm really unofficial, aren't I? It's terrible. Let's see. Is it something about equity? They always talk about equity. Come on. There we go. Is it in this one? Common law. Equity could intervene if the patient. No, that's not it. I don't think. Wait. Rescission. Well, common law recognised that title to a chateau would be conveyed by delivery. It had no. Always been in order of the court. No, I got the wrong page. I don't know. I can't remember what page it was on. Was it this page? Let me just, I marked different spots. Costs, that's about costs. Yeah, so it's always about costs. It's always about expenditure. It's not a bank, but it's to sort out who owes who what. Judgment which on the one hand acknowledges that costs are creatures of statute but yet maintains a duly accepted as part of the common law is powerful evidence that common law includes the resolution of the issue of statutory construction of the words cost and remuneration in a line of statuses empowering courts to make cost orders. No, I don't know. I don't know where it is, but it does say if he says this, it's possible they that it's open to another court. Oh, I thought it was in there. I wrote it down. It'll be in my notebook. It will be in my notebook. Really interesting stuff. You can take a peek, you can pause that and have a look, see. Lots of really cool stuff, and there's all these little, I love the footnotes. It just lead, oh, you just go round and round and come back. A court of law works its way to short issues and confines its views to them. A court of equity takes a more comprehensive view and looks to every connected circumstance that ought to influence its determination upon the real justice of the case. It's number 8, Juliana, 1822. Some of them go back to 15. I read one that was 1557. That was good. It's so interesting that they do use the law like that. And I mean, we do use the Bible, so hello. That's going back and back and back, isn't it, for our people? Anyway, so that's, I just wanted to point out something. I've got to try and remember to find that. So what I'll do, I'll try and dig out that article, but I've got some more other casually done videos. And yeah, this was a long one. Sorry about all the pausing and the thinking and humming and hawing. These are not scripted. As you can tell, they're just musings in the law. So have a good one. Make sure you go in with clean hands, and make sure that you actually know these are not separate. They are, but they're not, as you can see. And this is Justice Mark Leeming. I'll show you his front. See, he's done all those things. Judge of Appeal of the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Oh, I thought it was Supreme Court. No, Court of Appeal. Judge of Appeal of the Supreme Court. So, and he's been a lecturer too. So, it's beautiful. It's just, I love this book. It's quite interesting. I was going to say goodbye. It didn't work. Variety of statutes. Complexity of statute law and judge-made law. And there's the rest of that. Judicature, fallacies, equity and judicature. I hate that word. Equity and the judicature legislation. Yeah, so there's heaps and heaps of stuff. You can pause that and read it. It's quite nice to read the preface as well, if you can read it, if it's clear enough. And it's quite interesting to read, start things you need to know for the advocate. And there's a table of cases. I'm not going to keep going. Want to see the intro? Is there an intro? I think he talks about, is this the one where he talks about students? Yeah. He's got creative on this one. And that Peter one that I showed you, he also did it in this way. He did it as if he was training as new barristers. That's his first chapter. You can pause and read if you can see it. I don't know if you can see this. Might be too far away. Let me just make sure it's focused. There we go. And that's chapter 1 anyway, the opening. Okay. Right, so yeah. Anyway, that's, I kind of combined, knowledge for a case to also a book. Anyway, so that's an interesting book. I might do a little review if I can get through reading it. I'll see how far I am in it. I'm up to there. I'm up to this one here, the second one. So when I first started, it was impossible to read. But anyway, only because of my ability, not because he's actually quite a good writer. I'll tell you some fun things about that. I think I've done it in another video that I haven't put up yet. Anyway, so have a good afternoon or day or night or morning, whatever it is. And yeah, keep those hands clean, folks. Really, really do your do your due diligence, because there's so much in that law library. There's so much history, much of it you're not aware of. Just always walk with, when you go in the court, you always do it with great manners. And when they're doing something naughty, you tell them. And don't get thrown in the brigs for doing so, like I almost did. Thank you.